Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go ahead and start the meeting this evening. This is the regular meeting, Monday, March 11th, 2019, Marque City Council, beginning at 6 p.m. Let the record reflect that all members of council are present, with the exception of Mr. Lane, who I believe is out of town on a job. Without objection, council will make that an excused absence. If you'll please stand for the invocation and pledge. Lord, we thank you for this evening and for the opportunity to do the business of the citizens of Marque. I speak blessings on everyone under the sound of my voice and their extended families. We ask that you bring us to our appointed destinations without incident or accident. In Jesus' name. And all who believe and receive, join me in saying, Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. We have a couple of items under presentations and proclamations. The first is a proclamation for Telecommunicator Week. And is there someone here to receive this?
Walking in the door right now.
Walking, well, it can keep right on walking.
Oh.
Jerry? Come on up here, Jerry. Say next to me.
Office of the Mayor of the City of Marque proclamation. Whereas emergencies can occur at any time that require police, fire, or emergency medical services. And whereas when an emergency occurs, the prompt response of police officers, firefighters, and paramedics is critical to the protection of life and preservation of property. And whereas the safety of our police officers and firefighters is dependent upon the quality and accuracy of information obtained from citizens who telephone the Marque Emergency Communications Center. And whereas public safety telecommunicators are the first and most critical contact our citizens have with emergency services and are the single vital link for our police officers and firefighters by monitoring their activities by radio, providing them information, and ensuring their safety. And whereas public safety telecommunicators of Marque have contributed substantially to the safety of our citizens, apprehension of criminals, suppression of fires, and treatment of patients, while exhibiting compassion, understanding, and professionalism during the performance of their job in the past year. Now, therefore, we, the City Council of Marque, declare the week of April 8th through 14th, 2019, as National Public Safety Telecommunicators Week, in honor of the men and women whose diligence and professionalism keep our city and citizens safe. In testimony whereof, witness to the hand and seal of the City of Marque, this 11th day of March 2019, Bobby Hockey Mayor. Congratulations.
Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3. Oh, that should be good. Thank you.
And introduce yourself.
Oh, my name is Tina Crawford Smith, dispatcher and chief Jackson Facility. Been with the city since 2005. This is our new telecommunicator, Jared Lockett.
Woohoo!
Welcome.
Jerry's carrying it up right now.
She usually asks for a raise every time.
Well, since everybody's here.
Go ahead. presentation from Chief Jackson, traffic stop video.
Thank you. This video has been a long time coming. I know that this was a goal of the council for quite a while now, and we had some hiccups with this. We did do a traffic stop video that didn't really deliver the message that we wanted. The message being what to expect and just understanding what's going on a traffic stop. What we decided to do was to have a video that made an initial introduction to traffic stop safety, and we're going to have subsequent videos that are going to address the more in-depth specifics about traffic stops and dispel some of the misconceptions that some of the public has about what happens on a traffic stop. So what we did is we partnered with the Marque High School drama, or what would the department be at the high school? It's
The Marque High School Performance Group.
So we partnered with the high school and came up with a script, and we had some focus groups that went over the script and decided what should and shouldn't be in there. And we came up with what we believe is a pretty good message, a pretty good script. We, like I said, we partnered with the high school. We have some of the actors in the video are Marque High School students. We have a family from Marque as well. And there's a couple of faces in here that I think you're going to recognize as well. So, and we showed this to a couple of focus groups, one of them being our Ministerial Alliance. The Ministerial Alliance loved it. Said initially the first cut, they said they loved it and they didn't want anything changed. But we had another focus group looked at it, and we did some fine tuning, some tweaking, and what we came up with is the final product. Vinny? Hello, I'm Chief Kirk Jackson. It is the mission of the Marque Police Department to serve and protect the citizens of our community. We understand it can be stressful to get pulled over, but it is our goal to make sure that the officers and the citizens make it home safe each evening. For more information on traffic stops or to schedule a traffic stop demonstration by one of our officers, you can reach out to us on our Facebook page or call 409-938-9269. Together, we are community strong and Marque proud.
Man, the police.
Why? We haven't done anything wrong.
I can't believe this. I was doing everything by the book, and I know I wasn't speeding.
Remember what Dad taught us? We have to stay calm, no sudden movements, keep our hands visible, and be respectful. Just answer all of his questions. He's doing his job.
How can my sister be so calm and I'm freaking out? We know how this could possibly end. Arrest, assault, or even... We've all seen the news. Another senseless... Okay, stop it. I'm scaring myself.
Assess the situation. Remember the safety surroundings training. A driver and one passenger. I don't see anyone in the back seat. Driver's hands are visible. Stay alert at all times. Be aware and keep an eye on the driver and passenger. Watch their nonverbal cues and listen for anything that doesn't sound right.
I'm not going to prejudge this police officer, and I hope he hasn't prejudged me.
I'm not going to prejudge this driver, and I hope he hasn't prejudged me.
He's here to do his job.
I'm here to do my job.
Good afternoon. My name is Officer Anders with the Marque Police Department. The reason why you're being stopped is you have a defective brake light on the passenger side of your vehicle. Also, you made an illegal right turn at the traffic light. May I have your driver's license and insurance, please?
Just remember what Dad taught you. Stay calm.
My driver's license is in my wallet, which is in the console. Do you mind if I grab it?
Of course, thank you. Okay, just remain in the vehicle. I'll be back shortly. Okay, thank you, Raymond. You'll be issued a citation for the defective brake light. It's important that you get that light fixed as soon as possible, and then you'll receive a warning for the improper turn at this traffic light. All I need for you to do is sign in this box with your finger. Okay. This is the citation. If you have any questions, instructions are on the back of the citation.
Yes, sir.
That was stressful. So thankful that it's over. I wonder if Mom knows that she has a broken taillight. I'm glad you didn't argue that ticket. Remember what Dad said? The side of the road is never the place to disagree. We'll get it fixed and then call a Marque Municipal Court.
I guess, Hope, you were right. Being calm and being respectful is important. That wasn't a big deal.
So, like I said, this video is going to be an introductory video, followed up with other videos that are more specific to what is going on a traffic stop. The message we wanted to deliver was that everybody going home at the end of the night is our number one priority, is safety, and that the citizens have families to come home to, so do the officers, and that's our number one goal. The follow-up videos are going to be more, they're going to be more directed to the minutia that's going on the traffic stop, and like I said, trying to dispel any of the misconceptions that the public has about the things that we know before a traffic stop even starts. So,
Thank you, Chief.
does anybody have any
We
questions
have,
of me?
Ms. Joseph is a co-director, is here
Yes.
tonight. Would you stand up? And all the folks who acted in the movie that are here, I know the family is here. And that little guy needs to get an Academy Award.
And the Jim Richard, who's the producer of the movie, he's here as well. So
Hey, Jim.
thank you very much.
I got one comment to make about that. It was a well done script and video, but he received a warning for the right-hand turn, right?
Yes, sir.
And a ticket for the defective taillight. So
Yes, sir.
I'm assuming that car belonged to mom and dad, so I'm kind of thinking Papa better pony up for paying that ticket.
So we're going, and Colleen's gonna have to help me out here. She knows all the internet lingo, but we're gonna publish this online and let it sit out there for some time and let whatever you call them find it, and then it's gonna be published on our social media and websites.
If I could, I'd like to also thank our staff, and especially Colleen. She contributed greatly to the production of this video, coordinating the event.
Yeah.
So we appreciate
Really,
all
it
the
couldn't have
staff
been done if it wasn't for Colleen.
That is correct.
There's so much that she did. She when she saw everybody else, we really didn't know anything about production of this video, and she really stepped up and took charge of this and made sure that we stayed on track when we veered off. So, thank you.
Thank you, Colleen. Item number 5, citizens' participation, limited to 3 minutes per person. Comments from the public. At this time, any person with city-related business who has signed up may speak to council, limited to 3 minutes. In compliance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, the city may not deliberate on comments. Personal attacks will not be allowed, and personnel matters should be addressed to the city manager during normal business hours. Madam Clerk, do we have anyone? Supposed to turn that in. Yes, sir.
How's everybody doing today? Finally got some warm days. I know we have an ordinance that's dealing with garbage cans that are being put on the street. Not from I'm talking about the resident is putting it in the street in order for the garbage man to come pick them up. And when people be, driving up and down the road, especially like if I'm trailing a boat or something like that, man, that can get kind of bad. And, the garbage cans, sometimes, they almost take up a whole lane. Is there anything that we got in order to take care of that problem? To make sure that's,
That they're in the proper place.
Yes.
I'm not sure, but you have just asked the question and we'll address it.
Okay, all right then. And I know I had talked to the captain and everything about this other issue. There's an issue, is there a thing about people having race cars in the city of Lamar?
Once again, you've asked the question and we'll get you the answer. Chief's in the back as well.
Okay, but the garbage cans?
City manager will get back to you.
Oh, she'll get back to me on that?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And you are Clarence Caldwell,
Come on, you know.
3603 Prairie League. I'm doing that for the record.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, we know who you are. Thank
Okay,
you,
all
sir.
right. All right, everybody have a blessed day.
You too.
Okay.
Thank you.
Item 6 is the consent agenda. Anyone wishing to pull anything from it? Hearing and seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
And there's a second. Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Item 7 is a public hearing. Conduct public hearing to hear public input regarding adopting resolution number R-2019-003, authorizing and creating trails at Woodhaven Lakes, Public Improvement District Number 4, within the corporate limits of the city of Lamarque. This has remained open since January 14th. I'm going to allow it to remain open. There are many questions concerning this PID. I know I have a bunch, so at 4 o'clock before our April meeting, we will have these folks here and have a workshop, if that's okay with council, and we'll get those questions answered. Under 8, old business, discussion possible action regarding adopting resolution number R-2019-003, authorizing and creating the trails at Woodhaven Lakes, Public Improvement District Number 4, within the corporate limits of the city of Lamarque. I'd like to continue the table on that, and I'll entertain a motion to table.
So moved.
I second.
All in favor? Any opposed? Item B, discussion possible action regarding a proposed development agreement between the city of Lamarque, Texas and Woodhaven Lakes Limited for trails at Woodhaven Lakes subdivision, and provide direction to the city manager. I'll entertain a motion to table.
So moved.
I second.
Motion and a second. All in favor? Any opposed? Item 9, new business. Discussion, possible action regarding adopting ordinance number 0-2019-005, repealing section 44-2, curfew for minors, chapter 44 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Lamarque, Texas, and in its place adopting a new section 44-2, establishing a curfew for any person under the age of 17 years during certain hours. This is the first reading. I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. Is there any discussion?
Absolutely.
Yes, sir.
You want to go first, or you want me to go first?
You can go first.
Chief,
Yes, sir.
I've probably looked at this a few times since I've been on this council. But the preamble, this version of the ordinance, it's bothering me. It starts to talk about whereas there is a potential relationship between an increased number of crimes committed by juveniles and certain nighttime hours. Whereas there's a potential relationship between an increased number of juvenile crimes and certain nighttime hours. The city of Lamarque wishes to promote the safety and good order of the community by reducing the potential incidence of juvenile criminal activity. The ordinance, though it's a curfew ordinance, it makes statements as though they were fact about the potential criminality of our juveniles. And while I'm not necessarily opposed to a curfew, because I voted for them in the past, I'm having a real issue with the perception of criminality as it relates to our young people. Just because a juvenile may have broken curfew does not mean that they're a criminal. This ordinance potentially paints them as criminals who have not been caught, simply because they have not adhered to a curfew ordinance. So I'm wondering if there's any way that we can have this curfew ordinance written in a way that it does not presuppose that the juveniles that will be affected by this have criminal nature. Does that make sense?
It does, of course. And
then I have a couple other questions, but go ahead.
But I mean, there are provisions written into it that any juvenile out for legitimate purposes during the curfew hours is exempt from the curfew ordinance violation. But what this does is gives us the ability to stop and talk with juveniles after hours in order to number one, ensure their safety, but number two, make sure that there is no criminal activity going on. Whereas without the ordinance, we don't have any legal grounds to stop and detain anybody who's out after these hours.
Sure.
So,
And I know that there's a need for an ordinance so that we can engage. I'm simply saying the perception of this ordinance is that it is an ordinance that's written to somehow in some way protect us from the potential criminal behavior of juveniles who happen to have simply broke curfew. Now, everybody in this room, when we were juveniles, I'd be willing to bet broke curfew a time or two. It does not mean that we are criminals, right? So all I'm suggesting is that in the preamble,
okay.
we might be able to clean it up and make it, we could still be about a curfew, but make it be more in line with us trying to ensure the safety of those juveniles and those members of that community that the juvenile may have broken curfew in. I want it to be about our safety, about the safety of those children, more than it's about the potential criminality of those children.
Well, that's all. That's what this ordinance is about, is safety and
right. And I get your intent. That's why I'm saying.
Right.
You know, I'm saying to you that I've read this ordinance before, obviously, but it struck me this time as something that we might want to tweak about it. Definitely is needed, but it's needed for safety reasons and not for any other reason than keeping our children and the community safe. On page
Absolutely.
74, section 44-2E, police procedure. Under F, it says a Lamarque police officer taking into custody a person younger than 17 years of age for violation of curfew herein set shall without necessary delay. Number one says release the person to the person's parent, guardian, or custodian. That's legitimate. Number two, I have an issue with. It says take the person before a justice or municipal court to answer the charge. If they are, and here's a question because I don't know the answer to this. If they are under the age of 17, can we legally take them before a justice or before a municipal court to answer a charge without their parents being notified and are present?
No, that they're a parent or custodian is notified of the charge that's filed against the juvenile before they're taken before the magistrate.
Okay.
Yes.
So, but that doesn't read this. It doesn't read like this. Does that? Number two, it says take the person, and I assume the person is the under 17-year-old that's allegedly to have broken curfew. It says take the person, that person, before a justice or municipal court to answer the charge. I don't think that your intent or the ordinance's intent was to take a juvenile before a judge without their parents' knowledge or consent. I know that's not what our intent was. But I'm saying if we're cleaning language up, we might need to make this a little bit clearer.
Okay, maybe I'll need to have a meeting with Mr. Ortego on how to correctly articulate that in the ordinance.
We could reword it.
Okay.
Thank you. That very next section, it says penalties. Prevailing community standards is reflected by this article. It starts to talk about a violation of this article. The person shall be deemed a misdemeanor. I assume a Class C misdemeanor because it's punishable by a fine not exceeding $500. Who's getting ticketed?
Who's getting ticketed? As it is right now, nobody. But if they were to get ticketed, it would be somebody who is found to be in violation of the curfew ordinance and doesn't have a legitimate reason to be out at the time of the prohibited time of the ordinance, and the officer feels that it's in the best interest to cite the person.
Totally fine. Here's the deal. The entire section above this section where we're talking about police procedure, even above that, we're talking about parental responsibility. In the police procedure portion, we're talking about parents being involved, parents being responsible. Now in the penalty section, The question is who's getting fined, and you're telling me that the 16-year-old or 15-year-old, that they would receive the $500 fine, even though the majority of the ordinance previous talks about parents taking responsibility. The other issue I have, along with the criminality of our juveniles, is that I don't want an ordinance where our juveniles would have to be assessed a fine or would be subject to the criminal justice system. If they are juveniles, then they are the responsibility of their parents. Does that make sense?
It does. That is strictly in the adjudication process during when the case is being heard by the judge.
Now tell me that again, Chief. When you say that strictly, is it the judge's discretion?
Yes.
On whom he or she may fine?
Oh, yes. Yeah, only the judge can assess that.
So the judge can fine a juvenile if they want to.
Through the juvenile's parents. I don't believe that the judge can assess a fine on a juvenile and make the juvenile pay.
Right. So
We have the judge here. Sir, could you answer that?
To answer your question directly, yes, the judge can assess a fine on a juvenile. There's limits as to the amount. Do most judges do that? No. You have options of deferred community service, etc. We certainly realize that most juveniles have extremely limited income, so we're just finding ways to get the message across to hopefully where the offense won't occur in the future. There's a number of ordinances that I hear see juveniles for, be it theft, be it, well, not curfew right now, but be it traffic offenses, so that yes, they can be fined.
okay. What is there a limit, Judge, to the fine?
Yes, sir, based on the offense there is. To be honest with you, I can't remember the last time I assessed a monetary fine on a juvenile, but we can do it. There's options, such traffic offenses, you can ask them to do driver safety course, you can have them do community service, there's a lot of options other than fines.
Thank you.
You asked about the limit. The maximum amount that can be assessed for a Class C misdemeanor is $500. That's why the verbiage is in there for the $500.
Right. So with that Class C misdemeanor, how does that follow a young person, if at all? They break curfew at 15, they're fined, or their parents are fined, or however that works. Now they're 25 trying to get into a master's degree program.
Juvenile records do not follow. I see police and telecommunicator applicants all the time with juvenile records, and that juvenile record, in essence, doesn't exist. It's not taken into consideration at all during the hiring process. Not one bit.
Well, I would like for us to change those areas. I don't think that we can change. I wouldn't want to change the penalty section because Judge Baker says that it's within our law that judges can fine juveniles. So that section, I'll just propose that we leave it alone. But there are a couple other sections. The preamble, definitely, and this section that talks about taking a person before justice, that can be misconstrued as taking them alone. I think that section definitely needs to be changed as well.
Okay, I'll schedule a meeting with Mr. Ortego to get that verbiage.
I have sort of a slew of questions. Sorry, Chief. So, and a lot of it has to do with the fact that the last time this came up, according to the timeline that was in our notes, I wasn't privy to that, so I just have a lot of establishing questions. First of all, the ordinance that you're suggesting we replace with the new version, the current one we have in place, was adopted in 2014. Is that right?
I
That's
believe
what it
so.
looked like in our notes. If that's the case, has this current version expired because we didn't meet the section, what was it, 370.002 of reviewing it in 3 years and then every 3 years after that?
The ordinance came before council on April 10th of 2017. The first reading passed unanimously. May 8th of 2017, that meeting was not held due to the regular meeting being canceled. On May 15th of 2017, the second reading and proposed ordinance was not on the meeting agenda. August 7th of 2017, the ordinance was tabled after a citizen mentioned that we had passed the 120-day limit. So then on September 11th of 2017, I submitted the ordinance back for the agenda, and it wasn't on the
Right.
agenda. So
And,
that's
I
where
actually
we're
remember
at.
that August 7th date because I remember I prepared for it because it was one of my first meetings and then it wasn't on there. But so does that mean currently we have an ordinance that has expired and we are not adhering to it?
Correct.
Right, okay. So, and are there any other big changes to the nitty-gritty besides the changes in the preamble that Councilman Bell mentioned, other than the time change, the 3 to 2:30? Is that the biggest change that's in this ordinance?
Right. This version that you're seeing is the same version that was approved on first reading on April 10th of 2017.
Okay. So my biggest concerns over this ordinance, I mean, I wasn't very familiar with juvenile curfew, so I did a lot of reading over this last week, and I saw how prevalent they are across communities across the United States and how they have been for the past several decades. But I also found a lot of research about how there's a lot of debate over how effective they are. And obviously that's why it's integral that you have that constant revision and looking at the data of, every 3 years, making sure did it affect the community. So what I'd like to see is, since we did have it in place for a while and then obviously it lapsed because we had some mishaps in 2017, do we have the statistics that would sort of enable an informed decision over, this juvenile curfew really did help curtail crime, specific, very specific crime done by juveniles at certain times of night. That's the kind of thing I'd like to see, because without that sort of quantitative data, one of my biggest concerns lies in the issue that it potentially has with community trust. And sort of building something for the future, because I have no reason right now to think that any of our police officers would ever use an ordinance like this to stop kids and stop kids randomly, right? But the potential is there, obviously, for the future for something as subjective as determining age. And I understand what you're saying about, one of the biggest reasons we need it is so that there is some reason, that the officers can use to say, like, it seems like there's something suspicious here, but we need a reason to stop and ask you about it. I had assumed that officers would be, if they were driving in the middle of the night, would be able to stop someone if they thought something was suspicious without an ordinance, regardless of their age. But for me, I'd feel much more comfortable knowing, okay, when we first enacted this, what happened after that? What kind of numbers did we see? Did juvenile crime go down substantially, or did we have tons of complaints? That kind of thing. Because it's a lot of the research that I've seen out there does point often to this has, while it can be really effective and that there is evidence out there that it is effective in communities, it also has the capacity to really turn the community's feelings of trust towards their police officers and putting an undue burden on particular communities of young people out there, particularly communities of color, and feeling like it puts more, just more burden on them. So I'm definitely not saying like I'm against it. I would like to see primarily what happened the last time we enacted this and how did it affect our crime rates.
Okay. Given the fact that this has been, the ordinance has pretty much been in perpetuity, I don't know exactly how revealing that data would be, because we don't really have anything to compare it to from years before that, where it was in effect. So it's not that it went into effect, we had the ordinance in effect. We've had a juvenile curfew ordinance here for a while, but I'll go in there, I'll dig in the stats historically and try to figure out what I can
How long,
see.
do you have any idea how long we've had it?
When I came to work here in 1994, we had a juvenile curfew
Okay.
ordinance.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Well, and I mean, and that's the other thing, I mean, one of the things I saw a lot of in my research is how many cities, Austin being one of the most recent ones, that decided to disband with their juvenile curfews because they felt that it caused more potential community problems than it did surefire, absolute, yes, this has made a positive impact on the community. And again, I just want to reiterate, it's not that I'm saying I think it's a bad idea. Clearly, we've had it for a long time, and I'm stepping in just at this point, but I would feel more comfortable making a decision based on a little more data.
Okay, understood.
Anyone else? Would you withdraw your motion and second?
Oh, yes, withdrawn.
I'll entertain a motion to table this until we can get the data and get the verbiage.
A second.
Second. No discussion on the table. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you.
Thank you, Chief Jackson.
Item B, discussion, possible action regarding relocation of municipal court department to 1109B Bio Road, Lamarck, Texas. Court Administrator Rosemary Bell. I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
So moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion?
Absolutely.
Yes, sir.
Ms. Bell,
Yes, sir.
how long have you been our municipal court clerk?
With the city of Lamarck, I've been here,
Lamarck, yes, ma'am.
Lamarck, 4 years now.
2014, 2015?
2014, October.
Were we there, were we already in the police department when you got hired?
Yes, sir.
Do you remember, did anybody ever tell you why they wanted to move to the police department?
Apparently, the municipal court was located at City Hall.
They
Do you
ran out of
recall?
room at City Hall.
They ran out of
They were
room,
looking for
right?
Space, yes, sir,
Right.
as I recall.
Right. And who could speak to the move? How much money did we spend moving from City Hall to the police department?
I'm sorry, I don't know.
Okay. Was there any monies expended?
I was not here at that time, so I really don't know.
I'm sure there were some funds that.
Build out.
Maybe a minimal, if I recall, it seemed like they changed the room configuration a bit to where the city administrator's office currently is. There may have been some change to the teller windows. I recall some discussion of that. I can't remember what, if any, was done, because there was a sharing of, I think, can't think of the name, information technology, or the individual at the police department that was in charge of records had one teller window, and then the municipal court clerk had another teller window. So there was something involved. I don't know that it was a lot of money, but some money was spent, if I recall correctly.
And so now we're 4 years in, we're saying we want to move back into the same space?
No, sir.
What are we saying?
Correct me if I'm wrong. My understanding is we're asking for permission to use the community room behind this building.
Okay.
To renovate it for space for municipal court. We feel it'll be an efficient use of that. As you know, space is a premium for the city offices. We think that'd be a very efficient use of that space, close proximity to where we'd be holding court, which of course this room. And I know Miss Rosemary wanted she'll have some additional info to give y'all, but that's essentially it. Also, my understanding is police department is in need of space there as well. Mm-hmm. We have very limited space for municipal court personnel there at the police station as it is, and police department certainly could use that space, is my understanding. There's also some perception by the public with us being in the police department with the same entrance as the police department, that individuals may feel uncomfortable coming in to talk to municipal court personnel, coming to the police department to do that. So there's perhaps some public perception there with the public that we are connected with the police department.
So we're only proposing to move the courtroom.
Yes,
Only the courtroom.
only the courtroom. Yes.
So you're staying, you're,
Court,
The court
Court
offices,
office.
not the courtroom, the court
See,
offices.
so our office, we're with the police department. We were moved over there.
right.
So I'm trying to separate court offices away from the police department to have their own office.
So you're moving the municipal court offices
That's correct.
Administrative offices, if you will.
to the community room is what you're proposing.
Yes,
Yes.
sir.
We would still like to use these facilities as our courtroom. That's worked well for us over the years, but we'd like to move the administrative offices where an individual, they have questions regarding their citations, want to request a court date, want to make payments, and they would come to what is now the community service room, use that door. It also would be very helpful when we have court, to expedite the court process, that after, when someone needs to see the clerk, then they can go to that room just out that door and back down. All our equipment that we need, IT equipment, et cetera, is right there. It just makes things move much smoother if we were able to do that.
I had a question regarding, so, you made it clear now that it's moving essentially your offices there. So it would be all of the clerical needs, all of the records, things like that. And so essentially then you would need it every day of the work week from the start of the day to the end of the day, right? Okay. And is there a conflict then with, because one of the main things I know the community room is used for, amongst a slew of things, is like library programs and whatnot. And would there be a conflict of, they obviously wouldn't be able to be in there during, from like 8 a.m. to 5 or whatever, but in any of their after school programs, would it be appropriate to have just like anyone of the public in that room later on once you guys had closed up, or would that be a conflict of confidentiality?
I would not perceive anyone else having access to that room.
Okay, so it would be completely.
I think perception, the community, that room with now community room would be administrative offices for municipal court, is how we would request it.
So it's completely lost as a community room.
Building B.
Right, and I know when you said that like this 8 to 10 month time frame is when we're hoping that building B will be available. I mean, what's our feeling on that? How? I mean, because what I see as the big issue is like, it sounds, everything you put in here, Rosemary, is super convincing. Like, I agree. I think it makes a lot of sense for you guys to have a separate space. Even, you had a lot of reasons in here, but one of the number ones is that perception of people being able to come and not feel like they're already in trouble again.
We have people with warrants that refuse to get out of the car because they feel
They're scared to go into the police
go into the
department,
police department, and they feel they're going to get arrested.
Right.
So City Marshal has to convince them to come in and
Sure.
take care of their warrants.
And that's definitely not okay. And so this makes sense. I just want to consider how many other groups use that room right now. And to tell them without a firm deadline of, well, you've just lost access to that room, that's tough. I have another question. So what are the types of renovations that'll be needed?
Well, yeah, go ahead.
Yes, we were talking about doing a build out. We were gonna use it as we come to the double doors. We were talking about putting our stations there and build out where the center pole is. If you guys have been back there, we were gonna build a concrete wall there. Use that exit door as our exit door, but build like a L shape and have a little lobby area where somebody came in and needed to fill out paperwork. They could turn to a desk on the other side and maybe fill out some paperwork, stuff like that. Then it would also give us an office for court administrator. It would also give us a breakout office for some of the clerks if they need to take care of some personal business, and a little kitchen area coming up where the kitchen is, and maybe myself in the office. And what's so difficult down there is there's no place for if somebody comes in who has warrant that I can go out and sit down and have a private conversation with them. So basically what I have to do now, I have to go into the lobby of the PD when other people there are taking care of business and maybe pull a citizen into the corner to talk to them about their personal information. And there's no way to sit down, and I have to go back inside because it's a secure door and then come back out and deal with them. And it's real difficult, like Rosemary said. Literally, I had to go out and talk to a grandmother and beg her to get her daughter to come out the car so that I could get her daughter inside so that I could sit up for a court date. Because when they come there, they automatically think that they're going to be arrested. And our motto is, if you call us or you come to us, we're willing to work with you any kind of way to dissolve that with the judge or put you on a payment plan or whatever. But it just makes it so difficult when you're dealing with our citizens and anybody who passed through the city of Lamar that might receive any type of citation.
Ms. Warren, do you have off the top of your head, how many groups use that community room right now?
I know the library does use it, the garden club, the Citizens Police Academy courses are held there once or twice a year. Elections.
I know we had Toastmasters in there. Are they still using it?
No, sir, they've moved out to the chamber office.
They could probably use the council chambers for a good number of those events until we go to the until we go to the other place.
The actual estimate for the completion of Building C is 6 to 8 months. I put 8 to 10 and built in a little cushion just because weather is not always our friend. So.
Would this room accommodate our elections, so we wouldn't have to move the polling place?
I'd have to get with IT as far as the plugs and everything that would, the JBCs and the East Lights, the big machines. You know, as long as there's enough plugs, then it should work.
The thing for me though, Ms. Bell, is we just moved you guys 4 years ago. And so I really hope that you guys have done your due diligence, that this will be enough room for you for 10 years, that you've worked out all the kinks, you've made sure that you understand your needs, because we really can't afford to, and that's, I'm not suggesting that you or Mr. Washington or Judge, I'm not suggesting that anybody's doing this, but what I am saying is we can't really afford to play musical chairs with our departments. There's been a lot of changing and things happening. We're going from public services back to public works, and we moved from here to there. Now we're moving back here. We just need to make sure that we're as stable as possible.
Pro Tem, I agree with you on that.
Yes, sir.
In fact, you weren't looking to move when we moved from City Hall to Police Department.
Right.
That was where we were moved. I'd love for us to have a location, which I think that would be a good location for us to be for some time in the future. And I know y'all would love to have that stability, as the citizens would as well, to know where court administrative offices are.
Yeah, I agree. Long as we've planned out, and this is not something that we've planned for the next 2-3 years. We know that this is going to last as long as we're in this location. I'm okay.
Yes, sir.
What about parking spaces? What would you require?
We need additional parking spaces, I guess the question.
I don't think so. I mean, we get defendants that come in every time. I mean, not all at once, unless we're holding court.
Our biggest demand, as y'all know, was during court session, which is, it takes up the spots, and we have the overflow next door.
Yep.
And can't change that. I don't anticipate moving municipal court administrative offices having a significant impact on your parking out front.
Well, I mean, the spaces in the back, I think they're spoken for already.
Yes, those are all full. They're
have to
court
use
staff
front.
would park in front,
That was front.
which we have other staff parking out
Yeah,
front.
we could park over in the breakout over there. It wouldn't be a problem. When you on a normal day, in front of the PD, I think my car, I think Rosemary's vehicle, and maybe one of the clerk's vehicles. That's all up front. So at any given time, even on a high flow day, it doesn't even fill up to all the spaces there at the PD, and that might be 20 spaces, chief, out front, or maybe more. And it doesn't even fill that up. So it wouldn't dent this parking. I don't think it would hinder anybody coming into City Hall to take care of City Hall business either.
Would there be an option for them in one of the new buildings?
Not in Building C. There wouldn't be enough room. Building A, yet to be determined. Building B, obviously the community center.
And you did make some pretty good points in here about the efficiency of being located by the other. I mean, that makes a lot of sense. For as long as we're in this space, right? I mean, which we can estimate we won't be here forever, but
Sorry.
we are right now.
Right now, they have to literally take their equipment and come set up here for court and then shut back down at the end of the day. They have cash that they take here, as you know, plus it just would make things move so much more smoothly if they had offices back there where we could send someone to have the permanent equipment set up as we do during the day.
Who'd be responsible for building a business case on it for build out funding and everything?
Building a business case.
You know,
I mean, figuring out what it's gonna cost us to do the move?
yeah.
The court would gather, the quotes to determine the cost.
Yes, sir. I've started looking, kind of got some preliminary numbers on the side of the room, preliminary drawings I talked with IT, kind of informed them on what we were going to need. I think they used Crescent right down the road last time they did a build out.
I think so.
I think the PD, I think they used Crescent last time, and I think Crescent came in, and I guess they were the general, and they hired out everybody else, so they brought everybody in. I think there might be some other work going on, so I think we could use them as a one-stop shop, and they could just have craftsmen just roll in and get it done real fast.
Restrooms, this facility's gonna be adequate for
Yes, sir.
everything?
Yes, sir.
Well, is there, one last question, because I wanna think again about the library, because we know how much they use that space. Is there another space nearby in any, that they could use for their possible community space that's indoor at all? Just for that time frame, because like, Charlene, I trust you're saying like, it looks really likely 6 to 8 months, building C will be done, so then groups can go into building B, and that's a better spot anyway, so everybody wins, but except for the library, because one of the reasons that the community room is so close for them. Is there any other locations we could think of?
Not a city building that I can think of, that would accommodate their programs. I'm just gonna throw this out there. You know, council has talked about building a new police department in the next, 4 or 5 years. You could expand that and make that a criminal justice center, having a separate court and separate police department. I don't know if that's feasible, that's just a thought. It doesn't help the current situation.
Right.
So I can't say that considerably, or considering that they may not have to move again. I mean, it may be okay right now, but if that were possible to have a criminal justice center with the court and police separated but on the same property is a possibility. That's something to consider. Mm-hmm. But it doesn't help their situation now.
In the interim, during the construction, could the city lease one of these nearby event centers? There's one across from the police station now, and I think it's $50 a pop. Miss Scenes, I believe, owns that, and then isn't there one in this center as well? And so in the interim, if it's permissible,
For library?
For library functions, for city functions.
You got a garden club that the city wouldn't be able to pay for. The garden club would have to pay.
Garden Club has met in this room many, many times through the years.
Yeah. Yeah, I wouldn't want to speak out of turn, but it seems like it would be easier for Garden Club to adapt. But the library uses it regularly. They would just lose that space, and so I'm just trying to think of how to do it. Okay.
Once again, in the interim, could we move the chairs and let the library use this space?
I mean, if it's
If
Would
there's
work
no
for me.
if there's no conflict.
yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, if there's no elections going on or no court, I don't see any problem if the scheduling was done right, that the library could stack the chairs and have their activity here, or if they need chairs, or
Yeah.
they have video,
Yeah. That sounds fine to me, if it's allowed. Okay.
any other
All
questions?
right. No.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. Thank you, Judge. No other questions. I'll go ahead and call for the vote. All in favor? Any
Aye.
opposed? Item C, discussion, possible action regarding approval of a change order for the Siemens AMI meter project contract in the amount of $144,920. I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
I second.
There's a motion second. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Item 10A, agreements and contracts. Discussion, possible action regarding authorizing the mayor to execute an agreement with TxDOT to design the relocation of City of Lamarque water sewer utilities that are in conflict with the IH-45 widening project from south of 1764 to north of FM 19. I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
I second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Item 11, executive session. City Council for the City of Lamarque, Texas reserves the right to adjourn into executive session at any time during the course of this meeting to discuss any of the matters listed below as authorized by the Texas Government Code, Section 551.071, consultation with attorney, 551.072, deliberations about real property, 551.073, deliberations about gifts and donations, 551.074, personnel matters, 551.076, deliberations about security devices, and 551.086, economic development. Tonight, we're dealing with section 551.074, personnel matters, to discuss the city manager contract. Madam Clerk, if you'll call the time.
7:01.
7:01, we'll adjourn the regular meeting and go into executive session. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen, at 7:45, we have ended the executive session, and we'll call back to order the regular meeting. Item 12, action taken from executive session. A discussion, possible action regarding authorizing the mayor to execute a contract for the city manager of the city of Lamarque. I'll entertain a motion.
I would like to make a motion that the mayor of the city of Lamarque authorize a contract with Mr. Charles Tink Jackson and establish a starting date of May 6th, 2019.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion is second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. Should this be a roll call? Okay, I'll call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, council.
Thank you.
I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
All in favor? Thank you.